welcome founder and director of CPAC Australia, Andrew Cooper, and Chairman CPAC Australia, Warren Mundine.
Hello, CPAC. Oh, no much for that. Oh.
Well, Warren, here we are on the big stage.
Yes.
Elon and JD, they were just there.
They were just there. They're the B team. We're the A team now. We're right.
Now, Warren, you're a former president of the left Labor Party in Australia.
Right.
One of the things I find exciting here is seeing, former leftist Democrat supporters like Elon and RFK and Tulsi, even Zuck. Can you believe it? Zuck is even flirting with free speech. It's amazing. Tell us about your journey from left to right.
Well, as I said, I was national president of the Australian Labor Party for a few years. And then, but I've always had this basic belief in capitalism and freedom, liberties, freedom of speech, freedom of religion and that. And I saw the Labor Party moving very quickly to the far left. They were left, but they've gone so far left it's not funny. They're almost spinning around in a circle. And then I said, I can't stay in this party, so I left. And then I left, and then I was asked by a Prime Minister, a Liberal Party Prime Minister, to come and work for them. And I did. That was the John Howard years. And then I went on to Tony Abbott and I found my ground. It was fresh air for me, the idea of freedoms and liberties that we've got to fight for. And it reminded me of the conversations I read about with Margaret Thatcher, where you've got to, liberty and freedoms and that you've got to fight, you have a battle for. And every morning you've got to get up and fight the same battle again. And so that's what I committed myself for. And this is when I met this great man, the founder of CPAC Australia, and he convinced me to join, and let's take up that battle.
And I must say, that's one of the smartest decisions I've ever made, was to invite Warren to become chairman of CPAC Australia, because we've got an election coming up in a couple of months in Australia, and there's a resurgence of confidence within the Australian Conservatives. And a lot of that confidence can largely be traced back to you, Warren, when you led the fight against a horrible proposed amendment to the Australian Constitution. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's right. The Constitution that they're going to change was put one race above every other race, one single group that was going to have more power than the rest of Australians. And yet Australia is like America. We're a country of, yes, Indigenous people, like the Native Americans and that, well, our Aboriginal people, but also we're a large country of immigrants, people who are coming to Australia looking for a better life, looking for the freedoms and that we offer. And yet here we were, these woke people were going to change our constitution, give more power to one group than any other group. So I stood up. And of course, I was with the great Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa Price. Good on her. So we got up and we fought this battle. And what we knew was that Australian people had been so beat up, had been so crushed by the wokes and the cancel culture that they were scared about voting. In fact, when we kicked off, it was something like 80% were going to vote for this change in the Constitution against 20% no. But within 4 to 5 months, we flipped it. We gave the Australian people a voice, that they could stand up against this cancel culture, that they could stand up for equality and that everyone is equal before God. We are all God's children. And we won. We ended up winning 60-40, and we destroyed that attack on our constitutional freedom. Now,
And that was really the beginning of the resurgence, as I said, in confidence for the Conservative parties in Australia. And that, of course, has just been compounded so much more with the election of Donald J. Trump. It's been fantastic, hasn't it?
It has been brilliant to see Donald Trump come back and help us in this resurgence. In fact, leading it and making the world feel more confident about standing up for their rights and freedoms. And having him there has just, we're so proud to be at CPAC here. We're so proud, to see JD Vance and the people who have been working so hard with Donald Trump to make the world free again. The other thing too, we are coming up with an election.
We have the election.
We're having an election coming up in a couple of months. And for the first time in nearly 100 years, it looks like a government will not have a second term, that we are going to slay the Socialist Labor government and bring the Conservatives back into power.
And you know what, Warren? They're going to win, or we hope that they'll win, not because they're pandering to the other side. They've found their voice, haven't they? Peter Dutton, the leader, has found his voice. He's standing up for the values and principles of which we hold dear. And wouldn't you believe it? People are responding. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought that people love the idea of having freedom? But having the idea that people are created equal. Wouldn't you find it really weird that they love the capitalist system where you can run your own businesses and employ people and do things? He's standing up and fighting against the left. He's making it to be proud to be Australians. In fact, he's put up that we all should stand under the Australian flag, like you all stand under the American flag and be proud of it and be proud of your country. And it's just amazing how people are responding to this. And as I said, it looks like for the first time in 100 years, the possibility of a government being tossed out in its first term. And that is going to be an incredible time for us.
Now, we have a CPAC in Australia. Who wants to come down under to Australia? All right, we need a bigger room, Warren.
Well, we need a bigger room. We're going to get a big, big, big room.
So CPAC in Australia is in September 18 to 20. We'd love to see you down under. We're a pretty friendly bunch. We'll have the koalas waiting for you at the airport.
Be careful of the koalas. They're cute and cuddly, but they may pee on you. So what's that?
Well, we thank you for making us feel so welcome here. There's one commitment we will make to you. Your president has committed to you, and you have enabled your president to have the opportunity to make America great again. I heard Nigel Farage say yesterday that he is going to make Britain great again. We will commit to you that we will do everything possible to make Australia great again. Thank you.